I'm Jason.
And I'm Lucy.
And this is the Cast of Us, episode 550. Ooh.
Oh, and this episode, we're covering The Walking Dead, Season 1, Episode 3, Tell It to the Frogs.
Ribbit.
Ribbit.
So let's jump right in. What'd you think in general?
Oh, great episode. Feel like it's a bit of a fan favorite. It's one of the first kind of big emotional beats of the show, I think, this episode. And it was a very rewarding as a rewatch because introduction of some characters who we're going to get to know very well along the way. And coming to this episode pretty fresh off the Daryl Dixon show did not disappoint. It was a funny juxtaposition.
First, yeah, so different. Daryl.
Yeah.
First Daryl, first Carol. It's a big deal.
Everyone remembers their first Daryl and their first Carol.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much I don't remember here. And I think in part that's because sometimes when you start something new, you remember the earlier stuff more because it's new. So it kind of burns itself in your brain. And I kind of wonder if as we go along, there might be more that I don't remember, but we'll see. But I do see a lot of this episode in a new light.
Definitely.
I'm still sick. I can't shake this sickness. And I wonder if that impacted my feeling about it because I liked it. I loved seeing our favorite characters again. It's well written, especially since I just did the Fear of the Walking Dead rant, which is like such a shit show. But I found it kind of exhausting to watch. Like there's so many interpersonal conflicts and uncomfortableness, and that's what a drama is though. So I'm like, I that's what do you want? Like, I don't know. We'll talk it through.
Well, I did something that I wasn't sure if I was going to do or not, but I was traveling a lot week before last. And I was very nostalgic. So I was in Edinburgh and I had to get through to Glasgow, and I thought, fuck it, I'm going to book a bus. And it turned out it was the right thing to do because the trains all got cancelled. But anyway, that's by the by. So I was like, I'm going to book a bus and I'm going to listen to Jason and Karen, just like I used to when I was studying. And that was my routine.
Oh my gosh.
So I put on a couple of your really early Walking Dead casts because I was sort of interested. I was like, what did Jason think of the episodes back then?
Yeah.
So stupidly, because I listened to 1 and 2 after we'd spoken about them, but I did listen to some of your coverage of episode 3 of Tales
I have
of
no
Frogs.
memory of what I thought.
You weren't as jazzed about it back then either.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and listen, but I
it.
don't want it to color my impression,
Yeah.
so I don't listen first, but I am curious to go back and listen after we're done recording.
I think my favorite bit was that you and Karen called Daryl Norman throughout the whole thing. And I was like, how great would this have been if his name was just Norman? And your friend Jamie was on as well.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. Jamie,
yeah, it was cute. It was a good episode. Cool. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that your instincts are still quite similar.
Interesting. Yeah, I wonder about that. I feel like I as we've gone along covering The Walking Dead, and there's been a lot of people who say, the show's just not as good as it was in the early seasons. But I feel like, I could be wrong, but that a lot of people would feel impatient about an episode like this later on because it's an episode where we get to know a bunch of new people. Why do I care about these new people? You hear a lot. But I guess with the new show, you're expecting to meet new people, so it's okay. But also, there's not much action. There's almost zero. There's a lot of looming, but as of yet, unrealized conflict. So it's kind of a setup episode. There's a lot of interpersonal tensions, which not everyone likes, but I don't know. I guess that's kind of what The Walking Dead is. It's drama. But I don't know. I just think that if this kind of an episode happened in season 10, people wouldn't like it as much.
Yeah.
Even though you're right. I think it is a fan favorite looking back on it. It's really fun to see.
I think it's the one where it hooked a lot of people in. I think our feedback will probably reflect that as well. But yeah, I think it was, I'm excited to get into it.
Okay. What do you got first?
Have you given any thought to Daryl Dixon? Asked Dale. Well, Dale, have we ever? Daryl.
A lot.
Daryl, man. Quite a different Daryl to what we've seen recently. You know, last 3 weeks ago, he was in his like suspenders in Paris, like wearing a jacket and contemplating saying Santé in a little monastery.
That'd be so funny to go back in time and tell ourselves this and be like, shut up, fuck you.
Shut up. No, it's like I leaned over and I was like, he's going to go to France one day. Like, but the thing is, right, I remember this episode and like Daryl being quite bombastic, but like,
yeah,
Daryl's not wrong. Like, they have done a shitty thing. Like,
yeah,
that's the thing, is he's
sure.
pissed, and I'm like, yeah. And they're all
Yeah.
quite mean to and about
Mhm.
him. Like, there's this really funny moment where, funny as in weird, where Shane and Rick are like buddy cops again, and they're pinning Daryl, and Daryl's like, chokeholds are illegal, and Shane's like, oh, you know, put a complaint in, ha ha ha. And I think that joke hits a bit different now with some of the stuff that's come out about police brutality. But yeah, I was just like, oh, I don't like this. Daryl's being treated as such a low status character.
I know. It's uncomfortable to watch them pinning him down like that, knowing, you know, that's Daryl. Don't you do that to Daryl?
Because they've clearly got him pegged as like white trash. They're like,
yeah.
oh, he's just
and
like
so did
brother.
to be fair. And I kind of regret that now. I mean, looking at Carol and Daryl, how they turned out to be so different than you saw them here. It makes me feel like, yeah, I always say you shouldn't judge someone so quickly, that you should be open to people surprising you. And this is just a huge reminder of that for me, you know?
Yeah. And the thing is, I looked at them and I didn't think, LOL, totally out of character, Daryl. I thought, how cool is it that Daryl and Carol had those arcs? Like, this whole episode made me think, like, I'm so excited to see these unfold.
Because I think Daryl did maybe have a little bit of Merle's racism in him. It's hard to tell. Yeah. The way he interacts with T-Dog, he could just be frustrated with T-Dog because T-Dog's the guy that dropped the key in the thing and left his brother. But he's sort of like, why would you be the one to come with me? And oh great, you're the last person. So it feels like there is a tinge of racism in there potentially.
Daryl does a lot of what we call in my line of work unlearning as the seasons go on, like unlearning bad beliefs and behaviors. And
very quickly with that one, if there is any racism there, I don't think you see much of that anymore after this, if any.
I think in the next episode, he has his line to Glenn where Glenn's like, I'm Korean. And then I think Daryl...
He calls him a Chinaman, But then later, when someone calls Glenn a Chinaman, he goes, he's Korean. So he's like sticking up for
unlearning.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a line where Laurie's like, is that the plan, Rick? You and Daryl Dixon? And I'm like, yeah. Like, come watch it, lady. They're going to go far. Like, he's going to cut a guy's throat out while Daryl beats another guy to death. It's going to be great. You have
but
no
in the
idea.
moment, I don't blame her for saying
absolutely
that.
not.
She doesn't know.
But it is so funny when you think about it against later seasons. It's like, yeah, that will be it. So yeah, with Daryl, I didn't have too much to say. I would say there's some things that, on the subject of kind of unlearning and things like that, I think they intimate heavily that Daryl is racist. Glenn has that line about it being better coming from a white guy than from T-Dog or Glenn, that they've left Merle on the roof. I didn't enjoy the way that Rick and Shane were with him. I thought it was kind of interesting because I think the shift for Daryl really starts to happen as Shane's downfall occurs. Daryl's star kind of rises. So that was an interesting juxtaposition. Lots of son of a bitch, that's my dear. And he's kicking a guy going, you poxy bastard. Slags off Glenn's hat, tells him to go back to the angling pond, which is just rude. To be honest, just rude. There's a couple.
No, she told Dale go back to On
Dale,
Golden Pond, and
what does that mean?
That's a movie with let me look it up really quick.
I thought it was an angling pond.
No.
I was like, go back to your angling pond. I was like, that's a very specific reference.
It's a movie with Katharine Hepburn and Henry Fonda, who had a hat like that. He was like
excellent
older guy when he was in that.
I love that even more. There were a couple of funny beats. Was it funny? I don't know if I find it as funny in retrospect, but when Shane says, put a complaint in when he's chokeholding Daryl, and then there's another moment where I feel like John Bernthal does have some quite good comedic chops that he doesn't get to exercise that much, but there's a line where he's talking about going back for a douchebag like Merle Dixon, and Daryl says something like, you better pick your words carefully, and Shane's like, no, douchebag's what I meant, and then just continues talking.
And it's weird to see someone talking to Daryl that way and not having any consequences, but Shane's that type of guy though.
And he's clearly been leading the group up to this point.
Yeah, he's still the leader right now, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, he's the one who breaks the news to Daryl first, then Rick steps
Mm-hmm.
in, and that's because I think, everyone thinks of Shane as the leader. But I want to mention the whole chokehold thing comes back later, like recently in the Daryl show, when he chokes out the bad guy Codrone, and Jody Langridge wrote in and said,
That's
didn't
right.
Daryl remember chokeholds are illegal?
I was thinking of Jody. I was like, oh yeah. I'd forgotten that it was T-Dog, Glenn, Rick, and Daryl that go back into town. And I enjoyed. So Daryl is clearly a lot rougher than he is in later seasons, but he's still skilled. Like, he's the one who's like, you all gotta hit them in the brain. I was tracking this deer. He tracks Merle. He's clearly very capable. And I think Rick starts to see that a little bit. He's like, oh, this guy kind of knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
It was an interesting debate, I guess, about whether or not to go back for Merle. It probably would have gone differently in later seasons, I think. I don't know. It depends if Merle's one of the chosen family or not, but I don't think he would have been somehow.
Yeah. I mean, Rick's sitting there saying he's going to die of exposure. That's not a good death for any animal, much less a human or something like that. And this is early compassionate Rick. But, what Merle did to Rick has killed people for much less than that later on. So, yeah, I think it very well could have been different later on.
Absolutely. The only other Daryl thing that I thought was maybe a bit more Merle than Daryl is when he called the female Zed an ugly skank. You are an ugly skank, and shot her in the face. But yeah, Daryl's here. He looks a bit different and he sounds a bit different, but it's nice to have him on the team.
Yeah. I mean, that Daryl is probably the thing in the episode that I look most on with a new light, a whole different perspective. And so I'll talk about my Daryl notes that I took. You first off, you said Daryl was on the RV in the pilot episode, but I don't think that was Daryl.
It was a guy with a crossbow.
He had a gun. I went back and looked. He had like
I'm going to go back and look for next week, and we're going to
go back and look,
this.
because if we're talking about a different guy, but it's in the pilot, there's a guy with a gun. He has sleeves, and it's hard to see who he is. And so then I looked up, Daryl's first episode, and everywhere it says "Tell it to the frogs" on the wiki, and he's not in the cast list on IMDb or anything like that.
I'm going to screen grab it and manipulate it so that it looks like Daryl. Then I'm going to be like, fake news.
Well, unless you can show me otherwise, which I don't care. I just want to know when it is. But
you do care.
From what I can tell, no, I don't care. Like when you said that was it, I'm like, okay, let me reassess what I was thinking. But I wanted to go back and look because everyone, I just want the truth. Despite what you think, I want to know what his his appearance. You don't believe me?
I'm fake news. Everyone. I've been trolling you this whole time.
You're just feeling like upset because you're wrong. But
I don't even like The Walking Dead.
I don't need to be right. I just want to know what the truth is. But I think this is his first appearance. That's what it says. If you can show me otherwise, that's totally cool.
Yep, I'll bring my evidence next week.
Bring your evidence. Yep, you want to make a bet on it?
Yeah, no. No.
Oh, darn.
Only if I'm going to win.
Beer.
I'll check.
No. But anyway, so if that's true, that this is his first appearance, then that means the only character that's in the pilot and the finale of The Walking Dead is Rick, and he's barely in the finale, separate from everything else that's going on. But
he's in a trailer that is appended to the finale, kind of. Yes.
But Daryl and Carol are really the most consistently present characters throughout the series. I think we can all agree on that. And so now we get our first episodes with them.
Yes.
I thought at the time, what an a-hole. Like, I think part of that is because I already knew his brother was a dick. And he just seems like a little mini version of Merle here. At least he did to me back then.
Absolutely.
But looking at it now, so first he's pissed that this Zed, who's Greg Nicotero, by the way, is eating this deer, and starts kicking it. And Dale says, "Calm down, son. That's not helping." And what you said. What do you know about it? Old man, why don't you take that stupid hat and go back to On Golden Pond? And I was like, what a jerk. I didn't like his gruff attitude. I don't think we would like each other in person. But now I'm like, dude, he knows they're going to need food. He said he was tracking that deer for miles and now it's no good. Of course he's pissed. Their lives are at stake. He was going to be sharing it with all of them. So Dale kind of comes off a bit clueless. Like, just chill, Dale. Let him be upset. And he's a little arrogant. Like, he can be the one to tell him how to act, you know?
Yep.
And then he says he has some squirrel, about a dozen or so. And I think that's important. Like, I think at the time it seemed almost derogatory, or maybe that's just an incorrect assumption on my part. But I was with Lori, like with the frogs, you know, ew, squirrel. But man, people need to eat to survive. And no one in this group is really acclimated to the apocalypse. Glenn's barreling into camp with his sirens blaring. Lori's grimacing about the thought of eating something she's not used to, even though people do eat frog legs. Rick is maybe a little too soft-hearted. I don't know. That's debatable. But Daryl, he's already geared for survival. He knows how to hunt. He figures out how to kill a zombie and make it stay dead really fast. He's the first one to articulate, you know, you got to get him in the brain. Don't you know nothing? And he's looking at...
Those men had done quite a shit job of killing Nicotero. Like,
they're just batting at it. I mean, you'd think a few weeks in, when most of the civilization has fallen, they've been through enough to know, but I guess not.
Nope.
But Daryl's looking at everyone like, you guys need to get your act together. And now I don't blame them. I don't blame them for being like that. And I do think that a lot of Walking Dead viewers were keyed into all this that I'm talking about and appreciated it way before I did. I think they saw that Daryl knew what was up. And I think to be the last one standing, like they call it, Beth referred to Daryl, you need survival skills. You also need people skills. He had survival skills from the start. He had to develop the people skills, you know. He didn't quite have that down yet.
I cracked up when he threw the squirrels at Rick. Like, there was just 6 squirrels went flying. I was like, that's amazing. Like, he must love you. Because he throws fish at people he loves.
Right, yeah.
But it did make me laugh, just the visual of them flying through the air.
That's
I was like,
funny.
He's angry.
It's funny that his first encounter with Rick, well, I guess it was throwing the squirrels at him, but after that, you know, this guy who he'd come to think of as his brother is Rick handcuffing him and telling him telling him that he handcuffed his brother on a roof in Atlanta and left him there.
Who the fuck are you, Rick Grimes, etc. It's so good.
Yeah. So he pulled out his knife and took a swing at him, so I don't blame Shane for subduing him, actually, and they let him go pretty quickly. Like, Rick got down there and, hey, let's talk about this. And Rick did what Andrea said, told Daryl the truth, which I actually think Andrea comes off really good in this episode. Unlike other episodes. But when Amy said we could lie to Daryl, they're trying to figure out what to tell him, or tell the truth. She says, Merle was out of control. Something had to be done or he'd have gotten us killed. Your husband did what was necessary. And if Merle got left behind, it's nobody's fault but Merle's.
I did laugh at that when I was like, Andrea, you, Jackie, and T-Dog did run away. But no, you're right. She's very reasonable. Like, it's true.
Yeah. And that's what he does. He gets down on his knee and says to Rick, to Daryl, what I did was not on a whim. Your brother does not work and play well with others, which is so funny. You
could tell that it was a script he'd given before to people he'd arrested or whatever about like playing well with others and things. And I do like the way the episode emphasizes the closeness between Rick and Shane by showing them working well together as an old team of cops. It was so strange seeing them taking that out on Daryl. I found that really odd. I
found it uncomfortable to watch.
It wasn't the most uncomfortable thing in the episode, but it was uncomfortable to watch.
And I'm gonna can I do my fresh point?
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about the most uncomfortable thing in the episode, which is gender relations.
Oh. Yeah.
So in a time where most of us are kind of working to free ourselves from this idea that we need to conform to gender roles, and this has been going on for a long time now, you know, there's a lot more emphasis on not even, or just deciding what gender you want to be or what you feel like. But even before that was so big in the culture, there was still like women's lib, and you know, there were movements, but also there were a lot of people who still found comfort conforming to gender roles, or just didn't think that they had a choice or whatever. And there still are people like that, but still, it's so much more, we're so much more aware of that, especially people that you and I hang out with. And so here there's so many stereotypes. It feels like a throwback this episode.
Yeah.
We see women cutting hair, washing clothes, seeming to have little or no say in how things go, being ordered around, being physically abused, also being squeamish, about the frogs, and Amy's grossed out by the Zed. And with men, we see Jim setting up this tin can alarm system, which I didn't realize we'd seen that so early.
Yeah.
Daryl's hunting, and Shane and Carl catching frogs, or trying to, for food.
Shane cleaning his gun.
Cleaning his gun. Jim and Dale stripping cars and checking on the generator. Shane went off to get water. Daryl and other guys killing Zeds, so kind of being protectors, and Rick, Daryl, and T-Dog and Glenn going on a rescue mission. And that just really stands out now that all the men are doing that. And I think a lot of that is really unjust, especially the part women having no say and being abused. But I also think that it feels like something that could happen. I mean, it's weird because Andrea's saying she misses her Mercedes-Benz and her NavSat, which I think is, she's saying GPS.
Yeah.
And so it feels like what's happening now is a regression for her and for Jackie. For like Amy maybe, and Carol, it just seems normal. Carol says, well, this is just the way it is. But it's interesting. I think the writers having that dialogue in there, like Jackie saying, why are we stuck with this job? I think that means that they're not just, the writers aren't saying this is the way it should be.
No,
they're saying, they're just exploring gender relations the same way they explored race relations last week. And it was uncomfortable then, and it's uncomfortable now. But looking at how things go forward in the show, where I think Andrea is a big voice in season 2 about, hey, well, I don't want to keep doing shit like this. I want to learn how to use a gun. And then later with Michonne and Maggie becoming leaders, and Rosita just being a total fucking badass, and Carol, fucking Carol. I think I think you could look at this as, like you said, the start of an arc, and it's uncomfortable to see where it is now and feels very unjust. But knowing how things go the rest of the series, it's like, I think it's kind of cool that they went from this to that, I guess. I don't know. What do you think about what I'm saying?
No, I agree with that. I think, I think that's a really good way of looking at it. It's commented on in the comics as well. I think like the women are aware that this is dumb. They're like, what? Why are we doing this? And there's a lot of very toxic male influence. Well, there's not a lot.
Shane's toxic, I would say. And
Shane, this is the
even
turning
Daryl.
Yeah, this episode is a little bit of a turning point for Shane, I think.
Fucking Ed.
And Ed, man. Oh, I couldn't deal.
I wanted to beat the shit out of Ed.
I could not deal with that smack to the face he gave Carol. I was just like,
I felt so angry.
Oh, I was so upset, and she's so pathetic. She's like weeping, saying, "I'm sorry, Ed. I'm sorry." And I'm like, no, Carol, no.
But that's good writing as much as, like, it's easier to look at it too as good writing, seeing where Carol goes. And I think after Ed dies and she fucking hacks his corpse, I think that's the beginning of a journey for her where she's becomes self-possessed and in her own power. But she's the opposite of that now, and that's what happens to a lot of abused people in codependent relationships,
And I find that first scene where Rick comes out the tent and Carol's just like meekly ironing, and she's like, oh, it's not as good as my iron and washing machine at home. And Rick's like, thank you, ma'am. And I'm like, oh my God, Rick, the shit that woman will do for you. I'm like, and the shit you will do for her, and the stuff you will see and go through. I am excited for this journey for both of you, because it's just so, I don't know, that almost the Rick and Carol interaction, it made me think immediately of the episode in season 4 where they go out of the prison, where he's figured out what she did to David and Karen, and he exiles her, but then she comes, oh my God, I can't wait. But it just made me think of that, and how the power dynamic there is so different to this dynamic of like, oh, I'll just iron your shirt trousers for you, officer. And I'm like,
yeah. And it's interesting too to see her being so meek and domesticated, and then you see her later using that as kind of a cover so people underestimate her. I mean, it's also like, I think in the Commonwealth, doesn't she open a bakery? So she knows how to do it. she can really do that stuff, but it's also just a way to sort of not let people know what she's really capable of so she can have the upper hand.
And seeing her hair so short after that story Henry tells later about why his mom had her hair cut short and why she grew it long, I'm like,
because her husband would
pull her by the hair, and she didn't feel safe.
But even, I mean, that thing about having this behavior as a cover, right now it's a survival mechanism, and it's learned helplessness. She doesn't realize that, because later she gets kind of, it's interesting. Her personality is kind of quirky and goofy. You know, she jokes around, and you see zero of that right now. But it's like that with people. A lot of times you don't get to know what they're really like until you spend some time around them. Or in this case, like she laughs and Ed comes right over and puts a stop to it. You know, he's just squashing anything real that she has, any spark that she has inside. And when Shane started beating the fuck out of him, I was like, go for it, dude.
I was like, I know you're actually addressing other anger issues that aren't healthy, but I'm fine with this. Kick the shit out of him. You could also see Andrea getting a bit like, oh, hello. At the end there. I was like,
mental note.
I was like, mental note. Andrea does try and hit on Shane quite a lot in season 2. So yeah, I was like, she's into it.
In a car.
She does. She succeeds in the famous Hyundai. I thought it was on my list as well, the women at the quarry, and Carol fucking Pelletier, like just that whole seeing her like that, I just was like, Peter asked me if I thought Carol had the best arc on the show, and I'm like, honestly, because it's all about her, and I like that she becomes a character where we can still critique her. She's not a Wonder Woman, like she does terrible things. She does things that are really questionable and reckless and stupid. But Melissa McBride is just such a... Oh, she's so good.
But I like when you look at these people and you're like, I love the character, but I don't know if I would want to be close to them. With Carol, I would want to try. I would want to be her friend, I think.
Yeah, I would want to be her kid.
No, I wouldn't want to be her kid. Yeah.
I feel like I'd have a big target on my back at that point.
And that's another thing I was thinking, like seeing these early characters, I'm like, Carol, you're going to go through so much. And then I'm like, and just, you can't help but think of a list of kids' names, you know, Sam, Henry, Lizzie.
Also, like seeing Madison Lintz as Sophia, she looks so much like her brother when she's younger. Because like now she looks sort of less like him. But yeah, for listeners who don't know, all of the Lintz siblings play a kid of Carol's. So Madison Lintz plays Sophia. Young Henry in later seasons is played by the middle Lintz kid, and then the youngest Lintz kid, Matt Lintz, plays grown-up Henry. And I just love that. I love that all of the family were parented by Melissa McBride to varying levels of success, but you really saw the resemblance in this episode.
Pretty much the same levels of success, I would say.
Yeah, same levels of success, same outcome, really. But obviously they didn't know that at the time. They didn't know the show was going to run. They didn't know all of that. But it was kind of a cool echo of the future that you saw that family resemblance.
It must have been fun for them as siblings to...
Do you think she like goes over for Thanksgiving and stuff? Like, I don't know. Or do they all like...
They cry every time they see...
Yeah, they're like, please don't let her come over.
All right. Let's do another one. You go.
The reunions happen right at the start of the episode, but very touching, straight out of the comic. Chandler Riggs shouting "Dad!" Laurie
so
thinking,
good.
"What the fuck?"
I think this is some of his best acting, to be honest.
It is. Chandler's. It really is.
I don't know how.
He's so flippin' cute in this episode, and just the emotions of it. I guess. So the title of the episode is Tell It to the Frogs, which is what Laurie says to Shane when she's angry at him because Shane has told her that Rick has died. It's funny, in the episode I listened to, Karen actually stuck up for Shane and was like, well, he had every reason to think that Rick died. And I think she's right. I think there is an argument that Shane actually did the kind thing there. But I have reservations with the fact that he then jumped into bed with Laurie, but
he should have told. Well, yeah. I mean, he didn't tell her the truth. No,
he didn't do an Andrea.
He left him for dead, but he's not dead. Or we don't know. So I think for sure.
It's interesting watching all their reactions because I think Laurie is happy to see Rick. Like, I don't think she's faking that. I think once they kind of reconnect in the tent, I think she's actually genuinely pleased he's there.
Yeah. It's all over Sarah Wayne Kelly's face or Lori's face that,
Yeah.
oh shit, I fucked Shane all this time and my
Yeah.
husband's alive. That's what she's thinking. Even in
She's
the
like, oh,
tent when they're
crap.
together, she's thinking that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And they get that closeness back and they kind of, it feels almost like she's going to tell him in the tent what has happened. Like,
She should have,
it's,
in my
yeah.
opinion.
It's one of the things that I admired the show for doing was that in season 2, the revelation isn't like Rick's kind of guessed already or something. Like, it's not the big thing that you think it's going to be. It's more he's like, yeah, okay, cool, we'll deal with that.
But I just think they're recommitting because they were having problems before, and now they're like, I'm really sorry that we were like that. Maybe we can have a second chance. Like that, you could see that happening when you're having problems in your marriage, and then some big tragedy happens like this, biggest tragedy ever, fucking end of the world, that you are like, oh no, I do love you. So that's kind of the mode that they're in, and she's like, do you feel that way too? Do you want your ring back? Of course I do. So I just feel like in that moment, the thing to do would have been like, I want you to know that I was with Shane because I thought you were dead, and that would have made it so much better between them. But then it would be less dramatic,
Exactly. Rick's like, oh, that's cool. Like, yeah, okay, cool.
Right. I think Rick would have been understanding about it because that's how he is.
Yeah, exactly. I find Shane's reaction to it interesting because he looks genuinely happy to see his friend, but then he fucking hates what he's lost. And there's that amazing cut where he's on the RV and there's the storm is coming, a fun literary technique called pathetic fallacy, where the weather mirrors the mood of the scene. And he's sitting on the roof looking at the tent, knowing what's probably happening there. And you start to see the slip in Shane's mind into that darkness, because the episode starts with them sitting around a campfire. Shane's cleaning his gun and talking about who he's really stepping into Rick's shoes big time here, talking about how he and Carl are going to be the heroes, picking up all the frogs.
He's loving it too. Big smiles.
He is loving
and
it.
So is
he's
Lori.
Even, he does a very good impression of Lori, which wins her over. And then it just gets ruined by the siren coming and Rick arriving.
And the look on his face, I think, when he first sees Rick is, it's not just like he's thinking about, because he's just like, I've got this family now. This is so good. And as soon as he sees Rick, I think it's very much at the front of his mind that, oh, this ruins everything. But also he loves his friend. And like we've mentioned before, if you watched White Lotus season 2, it feels somewhat similar to Cameron and Ethan, like where you feel like maybe they're actually buddies on some level, but there's also egos and power play, at least on Shane's side, wanting to dominate and not be in Rick's shadow or whatever.
Absolutely. And this makes me pretty certain they weren't having an affair before, because Laurie's so horrified. Yeah, this is the one episode where I'm like, nah, I don't think they were. Which varies, I think, a bit from the comic, where it's not established they were having an affair before, but it's established that Laurie doesn't know Rick is dead, doesn't think Rick is dead, and it's just like, yeah, let's do this.
Feels naughty, more naughty in the comic.
Absolutely. And I think John Bernthal plays this episode very well. I think we see our first dark Shane is when he's beating the shit out of Ed after that night, looking down at the tent. And
then when he stands back and sort of like kind of horrified at what he did, he does that patented rub your hand, Bernthal, rub your hand over your head thing.
Bernthal head rub.
First Bernthal head rub. Drink.
Bernthal head rub. Drink. I did feel bad for him when he was like playing with Carl and Laurie comes and it's like, it doesn't matter what Shane says, it matters what I say. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, at first I forgot why she was like that. I'm like, she's nuts. Like she liked that he was going to teach her to catch frogs, and now she's all upset just because Rick's back. What's the deal? And then you find out, oh, Shane told her that Rick was dead, so then it makes a little more sense.
And then round the campfire, just love Chandler Riggs' delivery of this is when Rick's like, disoriented comes closest, blah, blah, blah. And then Chandler Riggs is just like, Mom said you died. I'm just like, and Laurie's like, and Shane's like, and Rick's like, she had every reason to think that. I'm like, did she though?
I think she did. I mean,
she did. She did. But yeah, it's just the way Chandler Riggs says that. And I'm like, So yeah, lovely. And I love that all the people at the campsite are delighted that this has happened and kind of very, very cheesy but emotional and wonderful moment of
Oh
reunion
yeah.
there. Yeah, and seeing how those dynamics shift is, I think, one of the things that makes this episode as engaging as it is.
The just there's a few scenes that really stand out. The whole thing with Greg Nicotero eating a deer, which I think we talked about on the podcast the first time. And of course, just Rick. Well, when Rick steps out of the van and sees Shane, and then sees Carl and Lori, and they have this great beat where they don't just immediately run to each other, and you just feel the emotion well up between all of them, and it does in me too. It's like, is this real? And then Carl, just goes, Dad, and it's like, oh my God, and they're hugging, and Rick's crying, and then Lori, and then that, where all three of them hug, like you said, it's right out of the comic. That's just so great, so impactful, and I'll never forget that. That's one of the iconic scenes in this whole series. So I gotta love this episode just for that, at least.
I also love that I think Chandler Riggs had really good relationships with Sarah Wayne Callies and Andy Lincoln, and I just love that he's like, he grows up on screen, and
and who wouldn't? I mean, I don't know if I've talked about my personal experiences with some of these people, and I don't know if I mentioned Andrew Lincoln yet, but he's just such a gentleman, and he's open-hearted, and he's very respectful, and he pays, like, I've interviewed him, and I've also done a few panels with him. He's very he listens, and he's just really tries to get into, if you listen to any interviews we did, I would go back and listen to the couple of Andrew Lincoln ones. They're so good. And one time I was backstage and I had Nico there, who was like, I don't know, 7 years old or something. And I was just like, hey, this is my son. And he just kneeled down and started talking to Nico for a few minutes.
That's really nice.
It's like so nice. And Sarah's super sweet too. Once you get to know her, she can be a little bit aloof until you get through that. But I'm sure she and Chandler had a beautiful relationship. I know they did.
I always felt like she was quite protective of him in a nice way. Like, I feel like because they must have done so many scenes together. And Sarah Wayne Callies is super fucking smart as well. Like, she's very, like, I don't know, she had a newsletter for a while that I subscribed to, and I don't know, she thinks very deeply about things, and I find that quite interesting. I loved seeing them together, and they're such a good looking family. Like, the Grimes family are so good looking. Like, those photos they have of them all together. I love fakey photos of families in shows where they've like clearly photoshopped them together, but these ones looked real. I think they must have done a photo shoot. But it's when they're like, look, it's me and so when we were young, and you're like, those are clearly two completely different photos. But these, I'm like, I wonder if they had a day of like shooting those photos together, because it looked
get to
really
know
cute.
each other. I remember I went to the Walking Dead Comic-Con panel before The Walking Dead premiered. And so it was just people in the audience who knew the comic and looking to see who they cast and stuff. And Sarah Wayne Callies was there, and John Bernthal, and I think Andrew Lincoln was there. I can't remember for sure, but they were talking about their characters, and Shane was, John Bernthal just, Shane's Rick's friend, and people in the audience like, yep. And like, what? And, and we're like, you two, I know what you two did, it was that kind of vibe. And they're like all kind of blushing.
Oh, that's hilarious. I think Judith must be made by now. That's nice.
Yeah, I think so. Last we saw that doggy style.
Although, we're only Apocalypse timeline, ding ding, we're only one day ahead of that, so maybe it's more dubious than we thought. But yeah,
I mean, when Rick in season 5 or something, no, I think it was season 7 or 8, I think it's 8, says that he knows Shane's the father, or whatever he said. I know she's not mine. I take that as gospel. I know you could argue it, but I just think that's why they had Rick say that, to let us know.
She's got the Bernthal ears. You just can't see them under her hair.
That's right. She's always rubbing her head.
Always rubbing her head. She gets real mad, then rubs her head.
That'd be so funny. She should do that. They should coach.
That'd be hilarious.
Kaylee Fleming to do that.
I love.
They should have totally had her do it at least once.
Like this, like she comes in with her head shaved, like I killed someone today. Oh my god. The fuck?
I killed Grace. It had to be done.
Man. It had to. I mean, you know my thoughts on Gracie. Man, that kid needs to toughen up.
Anything else
I think I've drifted from my kind of Shane point and my Laurie and Rick point. I just loved the whole messy dynamic of them being together and it being a mix of anger and love and jealousy, and yeah, it's just great. It's very compelling television.
Only thing I have left about that we haven't talked about is when they're in the tent getting close, and he says, "I knew you were alive." Well, why do you say that? You're being cocky or whatever. No, I knew because the photo album was gone. And I just think that you could see that as a commentary on women or something, and maybe there is some of that there, but also back in 2010, cell phones, like smartphones, were not ubiquitous yet, and our photo albums were precious. And I remember thinking, if in a fire, what would I want to save? It would be my photos, Yeah. So I don't, there's that part of it too. Like, it's kind of sweet.
I should print out more photos than I do. I always think this, and I was like, they're all in the cloud. And it's kind of a nice call forward in a way, because Carl wants to get a photo of Laurie for Judith in season 3, in Clear, and that's what his mission is to go and get that picture of her for Judith to see, which I don't think she ever does see. I think it gets left behind at the prison, but I like that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that a few times in Walking Dead, I think, where photos are kind of important. All right, Carol and Ed. So
fucking Ed.
Ed's played by Adam Minorovich, who was at least at one Walker Stalker, but I didn't interact with him. I'm hoping he's a good guy in real life, but he sure knows how to play an asshole.
Oh my God.
He just walking around before he said anything, you just want to punch him. He just vibes, I'm a miserable person.
Oh, awful. He's got such a dickhead face.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, I hope he's nice.
Yeah.
But also, he's so good at being an absolute dickhead in this role. Like, oh,
he's not nice.
Awful.
He's an asshole. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
He's a dick.
He's a dick. He just kept slapping everybody.
Oh my God.
Who got, photograph tickets. No, I'm just kidding.
Awful.
Yeah, so I totally forgot. One thing I did forget is Ed making the fire too big and Shane getting mad. And then Ed orders Carol to put it out, and she nervously does. And I'm just like, dude, modern day Carol would fuck you up for that.
Modern day Carol would throw you in the fire.
Yeah.
And stamp on your
I'll put
corpse.
it out with your face.
Yeah, literally.
And the whole thing about, this ain't no comedy club and all that. And
that just reminded me of, there's a Sheryl Crow song that starts with this, "It ain't no country club neither," and I'm just like, oh, that's great.
And Andrea does her second great thing here. She confronts Ed. I tell you what, you don't like how your laundry's done, you're welcome to pitch in and do it yourself. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. And
he's awful to her in response.
Yeah, I don't even want to repeat what he says.
Is that the C word, what he calls her?
Yes, it's the other C word that means the same thing.
Okay, I'd never heard it before. It must be one that we do not have here. But yeah, terrible.
You should start saying it and see if anyone else.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Hey, Coos.
Oh my God.
So Jackie mentions they've seen bruises on Carol and just trying to pull her away, and Ed smacks her, and Shane just starts beating the shit out of him. And I guess we already kind of talked about all that. He was already on a hair trigger because of Laurie dumping him. We already talked about all that through. All right, what do you got next?
What have I got next?
Anything else?
Just having a look. I've written just the search for Merle. Is it moral? Is it the right thing to do? But I think it's quite a bit. I mean, so the show goes to some really dark places with morality and what is right to do and what is wrong to do and so on and so forth. But it starts with quite a doozy, because this is a difficult one, because Merle is a piece of shit. He is terrible. We know that in later seasons nobody would go back for him. And yet Rick does make a valid point that nobody deserves to die like that. Although Rick, I found this quite interesting, because Laurie's obviously pissed that Rick wants to go back. But Rick comes up with 3 different reasons to go. He's like, it's Merle. Oh, wait, no, it's Morgan. Oh, wait, no, it's the guns. No, it's still Morgan. And I'm like, which one is it?
Well, I think he's trying to bolster his case, not saying this is why, but there are more than one reason why to go back.
Yes.
So